Well, hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV Times, What's on TV and TV and Satellite Week magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases available on Friday the 12th of April 2024, including Lucy Boynton as a bereaved music fan in romantic time travel drama The Greatest Hits on Disney+, and Michael Douglas, yes, portraying Benjamin Franklin in an Apple TV drama about the fight for American independence.
And we'll also be checking out post-apocalyptic, I always stumble over that, computer game spin-off Fallout on Prime, and Kate Winslet's political satire The Regime on Now TV. First, Ian, what is in the news?
Prime Video's rom-com Picture This, starring Simone Ashley and Hero Finds Tiffin, yes, follows a London-based photographer who was told by a spiritual guru that she will find the love of her life in her next 5 dates. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Gripping. Owen Wilson will star in an as yet untitled Apple TV Plus comedy series about a washed-up professional golfer who hopes a teenage golf prodigy can bring him a reversal of fortune.
High quality offering this week. We're going to start on Prime Video with a new sci-fi series arriving on Thursday the 11th of April. It's called Fallout. And here's a clip.
I've had a rough week. Practically every person I've met up here has tried to kill me.
I'm simply going to harvest your organs.
You need to go home. You come from a world of rules, of laws. You should not be alone.
As you know, Hannah, I'm no computer gamer, but this is based on a very popular computer game, Fallout. There are 8 episodes, and as we saw with The Last of Us, which we reviewed not so long ago, it's not always a disaster when someone brings a computer game to the big or the small screen. And I think this looks really, really good. It's adapted by the people who worked on Westworld, and it's, yes, post-apocalyptic. So we start off in, looks like the 1950s, but it's sort of like a retro futuristic 1950s. And as was greatly feared back then, nuclear war did break out. Then we fast forward 200 years, and most of humanity is living in these bunkers underground called the vaults. Okay, so that's where we start, and that's where we meet Lucy, played by Ella Purnell. She lives in Vault 33. And in order to keep populating this underground society in the hope that they'll be able to go to the surface at one point and sort of reclaim, once the fallout has died down, reclaim the surface, there's trades in husbands and wives between the different vaults. So we start with a marriage ceremony, and I won't say exactly what happens, but it's brilliantly done. It looks incredible. It's such a mashup of different genres and styles. So in the initial sequence set in the 50s, yeah, really retro, looks great. And in the Vault Underground, there's a sort of innocence to the way they live, and it's got Kyle MacLachlan's in it from Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet, and he is well known for playing the sort of rather innocent Americana type character who's confronted by evil and violence. So he's a very good choice for this. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Lucy has to go to the surface. Up there, we're going to meet various characters, and this is where the sort of genre mashup comes in, because there's a sort of Western type vibe / zombie vibe to this one character who lives on the surface called the Ghoul, played by Walton Goggins. He's a bounty hunter. Then you've got these sort of Avatar style soldiers who wear these great big kind of robot killing suits, which is also mashed up with a kind of a medieval-ish type thing, because they're referred to as knights. Anyway, we're going to meet one of these soldiers, and Lucy's going to be on the surface. There's going to be the ghoul. So it's this brilliant mashup of what's happening in the so-called wasteland. So you've got Aaron Moten plays Maximus, who is the soldier. I absolutely loved episode 1. It was funny. It was pretty violent, I got to say. Very stylish. Great music. Sets look fantastic. Great costumes. So I think this looks like a highly successful crossover from computer game to TV series. What did you think, Hannah?
Well, you know what? When I saw this, I thought, oh, here we go again. This is absolutely not for me. And I was wrong. You should not judge a book by its cover, as they say. It's really, it's kind of just creepy, I suppose, because, as you say, they're in these sort of these vaults, and they're living there, and they don't sort of go. They have to live there, and then when they start to come away from those and see the real world or what's left of it, it's just kind of it's just full of really these horrible killer robots and giant insects and kind of mutant animal monsters and what have you, and it's just. Yeah, it's kind of plays with your mind. But as you say, it's quite violent. And again, I don't particularly love hugely violent things, but it's done it's really clever, actually. It's not just another one of this type, I don't think. The sets are absolutely brilliant. And I don't know, I feel like Ella Pennell, who plays Lucy, she really gets the character. She kind of she's totally credible and authentic in the part that she plays, I think, and sort of not knowing anything about this life outside the vault, and having to then deal with what she then finds it's a really good watch. I think I really enjoyed it, which I didn't think I'd be saying.
We move across to Disney Plus for a new feature film arriving on Friday the 12th of April. It's called The Greatest Hits, and here's a clip.
2 years ago, my boyfriend Max passed away. I can't seem to pull myself back together. Ever since the accident, certain songs literally pull me back into the past.
So, as you'd imagine, some good tunes in here. If you like some music, you'll be enjoying this. And it sort of plays on the whole idea that and I'm sure we're all kind of the same, you hear a song and it kind of transports you to the time where you first heard that song. I mean, there are particular songs that I completely aligned with my time at university, and I think, oh God, I remember those days clubbing and doing this, that and the other. And you kind of, there are certain songs that transport you places, and this is what this is essentially based on. And it follows Harriet, played by Lucy Boynton, whose partner, her boyfriend Max, died in a car crash. They were in the car crash together, and he was killed 2 years earlier. And she's really struggling, as she says, to piece herself back together, which is completely understandable. But something really bizarre starts to happen to her. So whenever she hears a song that reminds her of Max, she is literally transported back in time to that moment they first listened to that song together. So whilst ours is just in our mind, or is this in her mind? She's transported back, and these flashbacks. And I'm not a massive fan of flashbacks, but they have to work in this instance because that's what they're fundamentally based on. Is these kind of flashbacks and time travel moments. We see her, who she was before she became the person that we were introduced to, if you like. So the person who just had such a bright future ahead of her, was absolutely kind of passionate about life, and so was her boyfriend. They both had the same sort of passion, enthusiasm, gregarious natures, and when he died, it kind of stripped her of everything like that, because the grief sort of consumed her, which many of us can completely understand, and it's really hard to kind of pick yourself back up, and particularly at such a young age, I'd imagine too. You feel so angry, all the emotions that you go through, but she's kind of obsessed with this ability to travel back in time. Of course, you would be. I think we all would be, and it is actually it's an effect of the she had head trauma in the accident, and she she wants to know if she can change things. So if she were to, say, never have met him or gone with him in the first place, would that path been different, and would he have actually died in that car crash? So you see her kind of explore all different kind of options in the flashback world, but then you also see her going and getting therapy, getting help in the real world. So you know what, it's a nice watch. It's, you know, obviously not exactly credible in terms of going back, but it's based on something credible in that I think we can all listen to some music and remember exactly where we were when we first heard it. What do you think, Ian?
I didn't mind it. The music, as you say, is really good, and there's a lot of, you know, scenes in record shops and kind of looking at beautiful vinyl records. So the first track we hear is by The, which I was well into when I was at uni. I guess it stands or falls a bit on whether or not you can swallow the basic premise, which is, for some reason, well, because of the car crash, supposedly, she's got this ability when she hears a track that was playing at a time in her past, she does time travel back to that point. And so she's sort of gradually hearing all this music and identifying what date it relates to, and sort of looking for the track that will take her back to the precise moment she wants to visit. And it's got some building on that, some quite interesting ideas, so that she goes around wearing headphones, because if she accidentally hears one of these songs, she can't control it. She's suddenly transported back in time. So it is an odd premise, but if you think of films like About Time, where you had Domhnall Gleeson learned that in his family that the ability to go back in time was passed down from his father, Bill Nighy. Then you've got Outlander, which is a really successful series in which this woman is magically transported back to the sort of Jacobite rebellion. So I think it's well done. You know, I think Lucy Boynton is very good as Harriet, and yes, she's doing this sort of grief counselling, and then she meets David, played by Justin Min, who seems like a nice lad, but obviously can she put the past behind her, and can she start a new relationship? She's got quite an entertaining best male friend who's a DJ and quite a sort of flamboyant dresser. I liked him. So yeah, great music and a perfectly enjoyable bit of escapism. Over on Apple TV Plus, we have a new period drama arriving on Friday the 12th of April. It's called Franklin, and here's a clip.
Benjamin Franklin. The Congress has sent me here as a representative of the United States to enlist France in our war against England. America requires men, money, and arms. Without your aid, the United States will end before it has begun.
Well, not long ago, Hannah, we were talking about a famous episode in American history, the assassination of President Lincoln, and the hunt for the killer in the series Manhunt. Well, we've got another bit of American history here. We're going back towards the end of the War of Independence, okay, in the 18th century. And the colonies, as they were then, are basically about to lose the war to Britain. They're running low on arms and manpower. So Benjamin Franklin, played by the brilliant Michael Douglas, yeah, great to see him in this, is dispatched to France to persuade the French to send ships, arms, soldiers, and help them beat their great enemy, Britain. As with Manhunt, I thought, is this going to be a bit dry? But it's actually really good. Michael Douglas is great as Franklin, who's an interesting character because as well as being a statesman, he's also a scientist and had done a lot of experiments using electricity. So it's based on a book. What's quite nice is that Franklin, who arrives in France as a bit of a celebrity because of his scientific experiments, he takes his grandson, William Temple Franklin, played by Noah Jupe, with him. So they have quite a nice relationship. And the encounters with these French aristocrats and politicians and the king are really well done. And I've got to tell you, you will see the greatest powdered wig you have ever seen in a period drama. I'm not going to describe it. It's just absolutely hilarious and really well done. So he's a bit of a flirt as well. He's sort of charming these women. There's a composer played by Ludivine Sagnier and a widow played by Jean Balibar. So yeah, a lot of it is in French with English subtitles, which I liked, very authentic. Douglas is in fine form. He's great as Franklin. He's really convincing. He really looks the part and he performs it well. So got to say, pleasantly surprised. What did you think, Hannah?
Well, it was good to see, or is good to see, Michael Douglas, isn't it? I think it's great. And as you say, the wigs are quite incredible. The thing that I love about stuff like this is, I always say this, is that you learn something personally. I feel like, it kind of fills in a bit of information for me. And, I didn't realise that it is actually based on a book as well. And so you kind of see part of history. You see, and I don't know, Michael Douglas, it feels like he's completely, as all good actors would, really understood and studied the part, I think. So you kind of, he's totally credible, totally, you can totally believe everything that he's saying, that he kind of has got under the skin of this person. And it's such a crucial point in Franklin's life as well, So it's a kind of, it's that moment in time where you see everything kind of come together, and so it's really, really dramatic in places. I am not a massive fan of subtitles. I just find it massively distracting. The children do it all the time. Just put subtitles on, even when it's in English, and we all understand it. It's so annoying, and I just find myself looking at them and nothing else. But I do concur with you on this occasion. It does make it feel authentic, and it is the right thing to do. But in the main, just putting it out there, I don't like them.
Fair enough. And I should name check a couple of English stars in this one. You got Danny Mays playing a doctor, and the wonderful Eddie Marsan playing the future American president, John Adams. We're going to finish on Sky Atlantic and Now TV, on which it's available as a box set, with a new comedy drama which arrived on Monday, the 8th of April. It's called The Regime. And here's a clip.
Madam, if you are indeed proposing an invasion...
No one is proposing an invasion, no one. Call it an expression of peace and love. Something like that. Something fun. Snappy. Yep. Good.
Yes, it is, and it has the ever-brilliant Kate Winslet in it. Of course, she's won some Emmys recently, hasn't she, as well? And we saw her in Mayor of Easttown, which is absolutely brilliant. This is a really quite a different thing, I think, for Kate Winslet to be in. And she plays the part of this very deluded despot who's losing her kind of grip on society. So she's essentially a dictator, a paranoid ruler in this sort of modern day dictatorship. But she's got all the, it's funny because there she is, the ruler, with all of her supporters, her cronies, her right hand men are all men. There's no women at all that I could see. And she lives in this kind of, she's massively opulent. She can do anything she wants. She's waited on hand and foot, clicks her fingers, this happens, that happens. And in the main, the people really quite like her. She's not at all how you'd imagine a dictator to be, or how we imagine dictators to be, because she's completely different. She has got this sort of different side, and it's almost barking mad, really, frankly, the things that she does. But she thinks that her people will love her unconditionally, but I think she soon begins to realise that she doesn't, because she falls, she turns to this soldier who is absolutely, he's kind of like an animal, he kind of eats like an animal, and he behaves really badly, and he's really, really quite scary, and you think he's going to walk in the room and kill you, but she turns to him, and she and the two of them become lovers as well. And when that happens, people start to turn against her. So where in that moment she had everybody adoring her, listening to her. Her want for more, for control, for ownership becomes, all-consuming. And these two people, I suppose it is a love story. It's two people that should never have been together, that should never have fallen in love, if you like, come from two different paths, and it's catastrophic, really. But it's really odd in places, and it is this kind of black comedy. So it's so mad it'll make you laugh, I suppose, is the bottom line. It's so crazy it'll make you laugh. But I think she does hold it all together. As I say, it's something very, very different for her. I don't think we've seen her in anything before, and we know that she's, as an actor, is really quite versatile, and she makes this her own. But it is quite weird and wonderful all at the same time. What did you think, Ian?
It is a bit of an oddity. Yeah, certainly very different part for Kate Winslet, who we both really like. And in this, she's speaking kind of out of the side of her mouth, and she's got a slight lisp. I think it's aiming for the sort of political, satirical tone of something like The Death of Stalin, the film by Armando Iannucci, which was really, really good. But obviously had a real life background, whereas this is set in a fictional Central European dictatorship. I don't think it's quite as funny as it thinks it is, and after a few minutes I was finding it slightly annoying. I didn't think the dialogue was that great, so maybe I was just in the wrong mood when I started watching it, and once you haven't bought into something like this, I think it's a bit of a lost cause. But there's some interesting stuff in there. I mean, this soldier is brought in to walk in front of her and test the humidity of each room she goes into, because she's sort of got this paranoia about humidity in the palace. There's some weird stuff in it. So there's this big sort of state banquet. She's entertaining an American delegation who want to mine for cobalt in the country, and she just kind of does this karaoke singing to everyone who's there. So yeah, it's pretty weird. I'm not sure it quite works. I mean, there are elements of it I found funny, sure, but I don't know. I didn't really buy into it, even though I very, very much like Kate Winslet. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Hugh Grant, although he's not in episode 1, is going to be in it, and it's directed by Stephen Frears. So yeah, good pedigree, and created by one of the writers on Succession. We've got to that time, Hannah, yes, where you reveal to us what you've been binge watching for the last week.
It will come as no surprise, the penultimate Saturday night takeaway. I am concerned that after next Saturday, what will I do with my time? But I did, of course, watch that. And also I had, and I know we've discussed it on this very binge watch, but I also took a long look at Scoop with Gillian Anderson as well, and watched it with the family, which was I did enjoy it. I said to you at the time, I enjoyed it. I think there are places where it's a bit less credible, but yeah, it's a good drama. How about you, Ian?
I watched that when it went out, and I did feel Gillian was doing a bit of her Thatcher impersonation. It's kind of had mixed reviews, hasn't it? But I enjoyed watching it. On Netflix, because we've been watching the fantastic Andrew Scott series Ripley, I went back and watched the film, the Anthony Minghella film, The Talented Mr. Ripley, which of course had Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon in it, and a reminder of the immense talent of the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's no longer with us, but he's brilliant in that film. So if you've not seen it and you're enjoying Ripley, well worth checking out to see how it adapts the story in a different way, but still a really good way. Now we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings. So what's on the binge watch menu, Hannah?
Tom Hollander plays Truman Capote as Ryan Murphy's Disney Plus anthology Feud returns.
And Sean Penn stars as a veteran New York paramedic in the Prime Video thriller Black Files. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners,
watch it.